The last 48 hours have been brutal for Bitcoin and altcoin holders. Today, I want to take a look at the recent market crash, look at what the technicals are telling us about what could happen next in the market, and I also want to give you my opinion on whether I believe it's a good time to buy right now, or should you wait for further downside. So if we just take a look at the chart here, you can see Bitcoin has had quite a substantial correction from the local peak at $73,000 all the way down to this liquidation wick at $59,773. Now, I did a video 4 days ago which warned about the potential likelihood of a test of this 59K region. You can see here in the video, which was posted on April 10th, I outlined a potential Bitcoin price scenario which would take us down to 59K and urged everyone to be prepared for that eventuality, because in that eventuality, altcoins would get absolutely smacked. I don't love making bearish videos like this, but I think it served as a timely reminder to all of the subscribers of this channel, maybe to consider de-risking ahead of what ended up being an inevitable market crash. Now, does this mean I'm going to pick the moves every single time? Absolutely not. But in this instance, I just noticed the market started to look a little bit shaky, and I was taking precautions to start to de-risk a little bit. But I guess the violentness of this dip did take a lot of people by surprise, and this was largely driven by mass liquidations across Bitcoin and altcoins, resulting in a lot of traders essentially forced to sell as their accounts were liquidated. I was seeing lots of posts on my timeline, especially last night, about people blowing up their trading accounts, and it's very, very sad to see, because leverage is a beast not to be reckoned with unless you're very experienced in this market. You have to make sure that if you are using leverage, you really try and minimize the amount of your portfolio that is exposed. I see too many people make this mistake. They over lever, they get overconfident. I think a lot of you that are sitting in spot right now, although you won't feel bad about recent events, you'll feel a lot better and slightly more secure than those that are heavily levered up. So if you needed this event to serve as a reminder to tone down the leverage, maybe this is what's needed for the rest of the year, because we do get these shakeouts, especially pre-halving and around the halving. This is something that I've spoken about a lot in my videos. And in these shakeouts, because alts essentially act as a risk beta to Bitcoin, they're already increasing the risk parameters versus Bitcoin and ETH. So when you add leverage to the equation, you're just piling risk on top of risk on top of risk, and that's where things get dicey. It wasn't just the video I made. I also posted this tweet 3 days ago where I talked about a potential Bitcoin pullback to 59K and that alts would likely take a big hit in this scenario. I said there's some data suggesting a cool down is on the cards. From a purely selfish perspective, 59K sounds nice. So this is a really interesting line, because I was saying on April 10th, 4 days ago, that 59K actually sounds pretty nice. Yet, a lot of people right now are sitting back and panicking. So Miles, firstly, be careful what you wish for, because my wish ended up pretty much coming true with Bitcoin wicking down to the 59K region. But at the same time, if I was saying 59K sounds pretty nice 4 days ago, why, when we are actually hitting 59K or, bouncing around the low 60s, would my thesis change about that price target sounding pretty nice from a selfish perspective? Well, my theory shouldn't change. It shouldn't change with the market. And this is the thing about emotions in the market. It's very easy to say, oh, I'm going to buy the dip if Bitcoin ever hits 59K, and then actually executing when push comes to shove is actually quite difficult. Similarly, when you say, okay, when Bitcoin hits 70K, I'm going to take profits, taking profits in that moment when the market has positive momentum is similarly very difficult. But this is why it's so important to come into the market with a plan. I had a plan to buy 59K, so I had limit order set, some triggered, and around that bounce level, I have started to deploy some of my capital. I'll get into my buying strategy in just a second here. So the lesson here is, if you have a plan, actually execute it and don't be afraid to stick to it no matter what happens in the market. If you start changing your plans as soon as the market slightly shifts, you're actually going to get yourself wrecked, because you're going to be prone to the emotional volatility that this market does present you. And trust me, it's presented me this over the last couple of days. I didn't sleep very well last night. Even though I was prepared for this, it wasn't a comfortable feeling buying into this dip. In fact, it's not a great feeling, and buying major peak FUD events and fear events is never a great feeling. And obviously this is being triggered by some of the global circumstances at the moment. We have seen equity sell off. We've also seen the gold premium start to increase, and crypto as a risky asset, when investors want to flock to a little bit of safety ahead of geopolitical tensions, typically what they do is they sell off their riskiest assets first. So if you actually look at the market right now, there's a reason why a lot of the meme coins, a lot of the speculative coins, the coins that have run really hard, like some of the coins in the AI sector, these have taken the biggest beatdowns today because these are the coins that investors deem to be the riskiest. Think about it. If you have a $100,000 portfolio and you own $30,000 in Bitcoin and you own $30,000 in Ethereum and the other $40,000 are in speculative altcoins, if you think a crash is coming or if you think something is brewing, are you going to sell your Bitcoin first before the altcoins? No. Are you going to sell your Ethereum first before the altcoins? No. You're probably going to go riskiest to safest in terms of the aggressiveness and the timing at which you sell. So that's obviously the explanation behind why altcoins drop. And similarly, that's why altcoins will also pump the hardest on a recovery because those have the most ground to make up versus their initial price pre-dip. We're going to get into all the sort of dip buying talk in just a second here and obviously in future videos. But before we get into that, let's actually look at from a technical perspective where Bitcoin sits. So we did wick down on some exchanges to this 59K level that I've been alluding to, especially on perps, because perps were very volatile with the amount of people getting liquidated. If we do look at Bitcoin spot on Coinbase, it didn't quite get that far. It got to 60.9, almost tagging that level that I pointed out in this video. Now, if you do want to use these squiggly lines that I just drew up as a potential prediction, what I essentially predicted was we'd come close to that level, we would bounce, then we would go below, deviate, and then this would form the next basis for the next leg up. That is still definitely on the cards. I'm not going to rule that out. And essentially what that means is when Bitcoin wicks down, sometimes the market has a propensity to fill bids in this area prior to the recovery. So I'm not ruling out the fact that we may go back down there and gobble up some liquidity. Let's see what happens. That's why I'm treading cautiously right now in the market. One thing to be optimistic about, and one thing that I loved to see yesterday, was GCR actually returning to Twitter. And his tweet pretty much sums up my feelings in the market. I think he says it quite well. He says, if you've been sidelined, I believe this is a good opportunity to scale into high conviction tokens. If you're fully invested, just survive, hold your spot positions, and do not capitulate. And I think this would probably apply to a lot of you right now. Someone once said, liquidations are a forced transfer of wealth from traders who need leverage to wealthy spot buyers. I was enjoying retirement from social media, but don't want to see my brothers get shaken out when the future is still so bright. So before we even talk about buying, one thing you definitely probably shouldn't be doing in this scenario is selling. The time to sell during a market correction like this is actually at that initial first sign of a breakdown, which is why I warned you 4 days ago here on YouTube and on Twitter. The time to start de-risking is not during or just after a major liquidation cascade. Typically, forced liquidations in the market, when you do see a forced transfer of wealth from traders who need leverage to wealthy spot buyers, present great accumulation opportunities. In fact, it is these major liquidation events which present the strongest accumulation opportunities historically to accumulate Bitcoin in the market. We saw it here on this wick. We saw it again here on this wick, just in the run up to this latest run. Even recently, we had a major correction back on March 11th. I know a month feels like a long time in crypto, but it actually isn't. And even in the run up to the last bull run pre-halving, we did see these major shakeout days where a lot of leverage was unwinded for the market. And of course, on those days, that's actually where you get the best risk reward entries. Now, at the time of watching this video, the market is slightly higher. So what should you be focusing on doing? Well, the first thing I want to make clear is that there's no rush here. In tomorrow's video, I'm probably going to go into more the specific altcoins, which I'm currently eyeing to accumulate. But the first thing to get very clear is there's no need to rush into positions, especially on a Sunday. Weekends typically have low volume. A lot of the volume, of course, yesterday was forced from the liquidations, but typically weekends are very weird for the market because stocks aren't open. We don't know how the general news cycle is going to react to recent geopolitical events. We also don't know how equities and traditional markets are going to react to geopolitical events. And we don't know how the fund flows from Bitcoin are going to react to these events. So it's very difficult for us to make major financial decisions on a Saturday or a Sunday. So yes, I did have some bids that were filled on that major liquidation wick. Yes, I did start accumulating some of the alts that I thought was slightly oversold. But the majority of my stablecoin balance that I have set aside, and you'll know I have this set aside because I was talking about when the market pumps, always make sure to lock in some profits so you have dry powder as ammunition during these major dips. And this is exactly what I've been talking about for the last few weeks. A lot of people that have been watching my videos say, Miles, we just want to buy now. Tell me what to buy now. And some people get annoyed with me always saying this trope that I come and say here on the channel almost every video, which is buy extreme fear and sell extreme greed. Well, I hope the last 2 days has been an example of why you should sell the extreme greed so you can buy the extreme fear. Otherwise, you won't have enough dry powder to do so. So that's basically what I've done over the last day. But this is a very good video from Follis. It's on my Twitter. My Twitter's linked in the description below. I highly recommend you watch it. It's a 5-minute video. He basically just describes that there's no need to catch a falling knife in these scenarios. You can actually afford the luxury of time because this isn't an event that's just going to blow over like tomorrow. It might take a few days. It might take a few weeks. We don't know how long this will last, but high likelihood we're not back at 73K tomorrow, right? So for a lot of you, especially the ones that don't have as much capital or have more of a trading mindset when it comes to the market, waiting for a confirmed reversal on the altcoins that you want to accumulate is not a terrible idea. What does this mean? Well, it's shown on Follis's chart here where a coin keeps setting in lows on the break of the previous local high and the retest of that level. If that holds strong, that can actually be a great confirmed entry to get into a position with a clear invalidation versus trying to catch a falling knife on price action, which is continuously making lower lows. I highly recommend watching this video. Obviously, it does depend on your time horizon, the amount of capital available that you have to accumulate, your cost basis, because that will affect your risk tolerance. But all of that pretty much constitutes how aggressively you do want to be buying. For some people, there might be coins that you've just really wanted an entry on. You've been super patient. You have stables. I don't hate the idea of slowly deploying in, but serious capital, a lot of the time, is safer deployed on a confirmed reversal. In tomorrow's video, I'll get into some of the specific altcoins that I am looking at, but a couple little tips here before we head off. Firstly, a very important tip is to actually look at which coins respond the strongest from this dip. So currently a few that I'm seeing are Zeus. Celestia is actually responding quite nicely. RSS3, it's an AI coin. A lot of the AI coins are starting to bounce, but they have sold off pretty aggressively in recent times, so just keep that in mind. Zeus obviously being super strong. It did take a bit of a hit, but Foxy was super strong for most of the day. There are some other coins as well. STX, Ondo. Ondo and the RWA coins have been some of, if not the strongest alts in the market during all of this. So it shows the market clearly likes this RWA narrative. Some of the gaming coins are bouncing. So just what I would recommend doing is go on Velo Data. You should already have a trading view or a CoinGecko list with your accumulation alts, something I talk about a lot on the channel. Always keep adding to your potential watch list of altcoins you do want to buy during these events. Plot them on Velo. You don't need to do 4 on the screen like I have. You can actually select a layout with 10 on the screen at once or 8 on the screen at once. But what I like 4 because it makes it slightly bigger. And I like to use Ethereum and Bitcoin as reference points and compare how altcoins actually respond in percentage terms from the bottom of the wick to their current levels, aka the recovery. Because if you can spot the alts that have responded the best, typically these are the ones that on the next leg up end up outperforming. And it's clear to me that Ton has responded well, Ondo's responded well, Zeus has responded well, compared to things like Ethereum, which, I mean, if ETH actually looks really bad right now, if I'm being completely honest. Bitcoin actually bounced a lot stronger than ETH, so you always want to use this relativity in the market when you're trying to work out, which alts could potentially bounce the strongest. If you go onto Velo and go on market, go on price changes by day, you can also see on their noodle graph here which coins are performing the strongest. And you can look at all sorts of different risk profiles. So you can look at the large caps, which ones have held up. You can see Ton, TRX, Stacks, all performing slightly better than their counterparts. In terms of the mid caps, TIA, as I mentioned before, has been strong. MakerDAO is strong. XMR, you can kind of look at the coins here. Doesn't mean these are the only coins you should buy. Of course, if there's a quality alt you believe in and it's been smacked and you want to nibble, you can take a nibble. But generally speaking, the coins with strength are the ones where you should be looking to get capitalized in, especially if you have a lot of weak alts. Market dips like this can give you an excuse to shift out of weak alts into some of these stronger alts. So I think all of you need to take a good look at your portfolios right now, even if they're down. Just look at the positioning. Are you weighted in altcoins which don't have a strong narrative and aren't going to perform well on the next leg up? Do you have enough exposure to these hot coins from sectors like RWA, which are clearly going to be some of the outperformers if the market recovers? Just have a look at your positioning and see if you need to make any moves. I know I've made some adjustments over the last day to be prepped for these conditions. And just remember, before I head off, peak panic equals peak opportunity. I did this tweet on November 28th, 2023. I said, and this was almost roughly 6 months ago now, I said within the next 6 months, there is likely to be a major FUD event. It's going to make you think the bull market is cancelled. And if you're thinking that right now, people will be panicking, Capo will be gloating. Capo actually just tweeted about a day ago, I'll be heavily buying. So, enough said, I think. I said this in November 28th, 2023. There are pretty much always these shakeouts in every single cycle which make you think the bull market's over. The catalyst is always different, but the outcome is always the same, and it results in these periods of peak panic and fear. But these periods are peak opportunity, so do keep that in mind before you get too worried. I will be making a video probably tomorrow or Tuesday. Just depends on my schedule because it is the conference. Of course, the market dumps before the crypto conference in Dubai. But I'll be making a video with my altcoin accumulation list, what I'm actually buying, what I'm identifying. I spoke about a few in today's video, like Ton, like Ondo, like Zeus. They've shown a lot of strength. They've recovered really well. But I'll get into some of the other alts that I've just been waiting for a drawdown, and now I'm finally feeling a bit more comfortable from a risk-reward perspective about DCAing in. Even in this tweet where I was kind of selfishly saying 59K would be pretty nice and kind of alluding to maybe a market crash coming, I also said alts would likely take a big hit in this scenario. They're taking a big hit, but I said it could end up being the last decent accumulation opportunity this cycle. I stand by this. I mean, nothing's changed in the last 4 days. Why do I think this could be the last decent accumulation opportunity this cycle? Because there aren't that many big shakeouts left. Typically, you get 2 or 3. We've already had, I would say we've had one. This is probably the second one of this cycle. This may be the last. There may be another one, but you don't get many chances like this in the early to mid stages of a bull run to accumulate before that next leg up. I still personally believe we're going to be much higher at some point within the next 12 months. So if that is the case, then you want to take advantage of these opportunities, or at the very least, appreciate, even if you don't have the capital, that these are the opportunities that typically enable new investors, especially if you're newer to the crypto market. This should be a blessing because you have a chance, whereas previously it may have felt like you had missed that run or missed the chance to buy. So it's a good reminder that there's always more opportunities in crypto, and it's a good reminder to be patient. It's a very good reminder to be patient. I say this in a lot of videos. Even if the clickbait's like, buy these altcoins now, you'll know. All the loyal followers of this show will know. In pretty much every one of these videos, I never ever recommend to buy on that day. Unless it's like a super important short-term rotation. I always say, buy extreme fear. What did we get in the last day? Buy extreme fear. So if you have those altcoin lists, you know what to do. I've said it a million times already. I'm going to see you in the next video. Hopefully you have a lovely rest of the day. Don't panic. Don't do anything stupid. Enjoy some time with your family if it is a Sunday morning in the US. If it's a little bit later, try and relax during the start to the week. I know it sucks. As I said, I haven't really had the most fun over the last 24 hours, even though I've been buying, just because, even if it's paper numbers, it still does hurt losing money. I totally appreciate that, and it's something we've been through a lot together even, through FTX, Luna, BlockFi, Celsius, Voyager, but the market does reward the patient and the ones with conviction. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.